President Trump has not been sounding a lot like a conservative when it comes to the issue of affordability. And I know he doesn't like to use that word, but have any of the plans that I've described here helped to close the K?
Joe, thanks for having me back. When I last talked to you, I was lamenting that neither side of the political aisle was paying attention to the K-shaped economy. Now we have an arms race on affordability ahead of the midterms. So I look at all of these proposals left and right with a couple of thoughts. One is politicians are not moving to become socialist, they're becoming survivalist. They know they need the bottom of the K to support them in November. What they still don't yet appreciate is the mindset of those at the bottom. They're in me here now mode, which means that everything that they hear from the left and right need to flow through three filters. Does it fit me? Is it immediate? Is it tangible? And there I see struggles on both sides. There are a lot of great intentions, plans, frameworks, as you just said, but those at the bottom, they want me here now.
Me here now. What do they think when the president calls affordability a Democrat hoax? Or is that just the noise, Peter? Does something like what I'm describing to try to unlock savings, to buy a home, to try to cap interest rates on credit cards, does that resonate with people at the bottom of the K?
It resonates so long as it's real and as long as it fits. So let's talk about the 401k piece. The Bureau of Labor Statistics last year said that 56% of Americans have 401k plans through their employer, which would suggest that about half of Americans don't have the plan and would not qualify to begin with. I don't think it's a hard stretch to think that most of that 44% sits at the bottom. So again, maybe well-intended, but it's not targeting the group that needs this relief the most.
Don't we need to build more homes? How does this help us increase supply?
Well, that was going to be my second point. A lot of the efforts that I see are focused on demand. That's not the way to solve an inflation problem. If the issue is affordability, we need to boost supply. Sadly, if we increase demand, all we're going to end up doing is boosting inflation in the product that's for sale.
Yeah. So I don't know if you heard about what the Independent was calling the depression meal this week. The Agriculture Secretary, Secretary Rollins, was at this idea. She said they ran 1,000 simulations at the White House, Peter, 1,000 simulations, and found that you could pay $3 for a meal of a piece of chicken, a piece of broccoli, a single corn tortilla, and one other thing. We're not sure what the other thing is. We're pretty sure it's not a prime rib. But that kind of talk resonates how at the bottom of the K?
I don't think it resonates at all. I think all that does is to reinforce the scarcity that those at the bottom feel. Moreover, it does so at a time where they are all too aware of the overabundance above them. I look at the K-shaped dynamic today boarding an airplane, and those at the back of the plane are walking past row after row after row of business class seats before they arrive at their destination. And I think that policymakers especially need to be careful about reminding those who don't have enough today how little they have relative to those around them.
There's a literal interpretation of what you're talking about here, Peter. I think it was Delta Airlines just last week in its earnings report said bookings in the main cabin are down. Bookings in first class are through the roof. They can't keep up with it to the point where they're going to start expanding first class sections in airplanes. This is the manifestation of the K.
Absolutely. And they expect 60% of their revenues to come from the front of the plane. And
imagine.
And I think for those at the bottom, they're seeing lots of things being handed out to those above them. They see the benefits of the One Beautiful Bill and other things. they're challenging both sides of the aisle to respond. And I think left and right need to take note of the messages from the new mayor of New York. As I said, it's not a socialist message, it's a survivalist message. And how do they help those at the bottom? And I think the challenge, given the breadth of the K today, is it's creating a slave of two masters environment where to help those at the bottom, they're ultimately going to need to take something from the top. And we saw that with the credit card proposal. We've seen that with some of the housing proposals. And that's a tough thing a tough march to walk if you are, a administration that uses the stock market as a barometer of success.
Yeah. I've asked this before, Peter, if the Supreme Court strikes down the tariff regime, does that spare the bottom of the K and therefore, politically speaking, the administration?
No, I think the bottom of the K, it only spares them to the extent that they see the benefit. And it's unclear now that prices have adjusted for the tariffs, whether we will see, the full array of retailers now reduce prices as a result, or do those who are making things or in the middle seize the opportunity?